Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very senior professional from the world of family business, Mr. Sunil Soni. Sunil, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Ashutosh, for having me.
Thank you. Sunil is a family business consultant. He's also the founder of the Indian Family Business Network. So, Sunil, before we start talking about Indian family business, tell me a little bit about your background and what took you to family business.
So I think as somebody said that when you look at the dots, they don't connect forward, they connect backwards. I think I've had a similar story. So at a very young age, at about 14, when I just completed my 10th standard exams, my father gave me a bike next day and he said, now go to the store. And I'm talking about my family business. So this is where the journey for me started. I started working with my family business. I was involved in operations, managing customers, handling procurement, all of that. I worked there for about 5 years, and I think that gave me a good insight about business. And at that point I became really passionate about it.
Okay.
And I think after my graduation, so during my 11th, 12th standard and graduation, I was involved in family business. And I felt that I need to kind of learn more about how bigger organizations function.
Right.
And that is where I went for my post-graduation. I went to Flame University in Pune. And I met one of the brilliant professors there, Professor Indra Parekh. She was dean at IIM Ahmedabad. And the first day of our class, she says, do you know 97% of the families break away within 3 generations?
Right.
And that was an eye-opener. Me coming from a family business, recognizing that this won't last beyond 3 generations was a big thing for me, because now I was becoming passionate about my business. And so this is where the journey started. I started learning more about family businesses. We, in fact, in one of the sessions, she invited me along with my father, and we had certain discussions. And I recognized that how each families have different working styles, different communication styles, sometimes which leads to complication.
Correct.
And from there on, last 16 years, I've been with family businesses, starting from my own family business. Then I joined a family-owned group called Dalmia Bharat Group. You must be familiar.
Yeah, I know them very well. Yeah.
Yes. So I worked with them when they were professionalizing the board, and I was involved in leadership development there. And after that, it's been largely consulting initially with startups and then exclusively family business. Because with startups also, there was a similar story where you have a founder, he has an idea, but he needs approval from brother, he needs consent from father to fund, and there were challenges there. So I think the whole journey has revolved around family governance. And I think during this time, just to give an insight, I've met close to 500 Indian family businesses and abroad. They can come from either the founding generation to all the way till 6th generation.
Right.
Usually business operations are above 100 CR and all the way till 7,000, 8,000 CR. And complexity could be 2-member family or as many as 70-member family.
Sure. Very interesting. And before we get into more details, what was the need to set up a family business network?
So I would say that happened by coincidence. During Corona, all of us were back home and we were still looking for ways to interact with people.
Right.
And during that time, there was this application which was introduced in the country called Clubhouse.
Correct.
And it was a brilliant opportunity, for somebody like us, it's not snippets, I'm still kind of passing on to that, but it's more about conversations with people. And Clubhouse opened that opportunity for us. So digitally, I would open a room and invite people to have family business conversation. Normalize the fact that it is okay to have differences. It is okay to have communication gaps. It is okay to have different aspirations.
Right.
And this is where, the conversation got bigger. People said you should organize a club around it. You should organize a network around it. This is important. Because if you realize, almost 80% of our economy is either run by family businesses or family-owned businesses. So this was a huge space. Every kirana store, every second door in the country is, and they were looking for space to speak these out. They had no idea who to speak with. They thought, my father is the worst or my brother is the worst, and I'm stuck in this relationship.
Correct.
What do I do with my life? This is where we started the conversation. To my surprise, we grew to almost 1,800 members in 5 months.
Amazing.
We had exclusive sessions for decision-making, communication, constitution, governance, women in family business. 21st century women in family business. And I think this was a remarkable platform to recognize that there is a wider need for this.
Correct. Well said. So, Sunil, you just spoke about three generations. It's a very old Chinese saying, just come from down the years, which says the first generation builds, the second generation consolidates, and the third generation destroys.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you, given the fact that you are so well entrenched in family business, how has family business in India changed over the years?
Wow, that's a remark. I mean, that's a journey. So I would say, first of all, the saying you spoke about is there in every culture. In India, we say it, "Koti ki umr 60 saal." A bungalow which is built usually lasts for 60 years. What you spoke about, Chinese say that wealth doesn't pass 3 generations. Germans, US says shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves, clogs to clogs in 3 generations. All the cultures have this.
Sure.
And here in India, I would say, I think the family business tradition has been phenomenal since the very beginning. I think you would recognize we are one of the oldest nations in the world. And family business have been foundation. In fact, we have communities around family business. You have Agarwal community, you have Jain community, you have Marwari communities who have this science of business inbuilt in their blood somewhere. And they recognize this deeply. So usually what would happen is that the wealth would be inherited by the sons. And then, they would carry forward the legacy of the business. And then there were differences, families would part ways. Last 40 years have been very different. Since the rise of economic opportunities, the rise of role of women in the business, the rise of education, which is, driven from different facts, all of these things have influenced our culture deeply. And the influence has been such that a huge amount of wealth has been created in the last 40 years.
Right.
Yeah. And what has happened is this was through sheer passion and the values which are inbuilt in our culture. So brothers would work together, create a business, induct the next generation, like I did in my own family business. Then what happens is that somewhere the second generation grows, they're studied abroad, they come back, they have different ideologies, they have different perceptions, and they want to introduce these ideas for the good of the business. And then there is a mismatch of styles. There's a mismatch of communication. This is where, for the first time, people start recognizing differences. They might not surface it, but they start recognizing that we are different.
Very interesting.
One of the easiest way they find is, if this can't work out, let's separate. But I think separation opens up too many other dimensions of complexity.
Absolutely.
Staying together requires you to kind of put off the ego aside and think about the larger picture, which I think is not a common practice. It used to happen earlier. I would say at least 50 years back, this was okay for the younger brother to listen to the elder brother. It was okay for the sons to go by whatever father has said. If father has said stand up, he would stand up. Father has said sit, he would sit down. But I think the last 20 years has not been such. People have changed. People, the next generation got educated in a very different system. And now they want to question. They want to understand things, which is often take people by surprise. Or also the lifestyle and the expenses of these families have changed.
Correct.
Drastically, which leads to, again, differences in family, differences in business operations, differences in expenses, all of that. So what's happening is now we are at a state where a lot of second generation, third generation has inherited huge amount of wealth and they're struggling with these differences.
Correct.
They fail to communicate. Often what happens is, the emotional language is not very well built or very well spoken about. If I'm dealing with emotional struggle, often I fail to articulate it. I don't understand what's happening. It's not going well within me, but I don't understand what's going wrong. And if I don't understand, I can't communicate with others. And that leads to further confusions.
Wonderful. The other thing, Sunil, that I've also been noticing, and I've got lots of friends in the family business networks, I've been noticing that there is a severe stress, not from the perspective of interpersonal issues of families, but family businesses are not innovating. They're asset heavy, cash poor. And because they're not innovating, they suddenly begin to find that, some startup is coming and has become a unicorn and they've been there for 100 years and they're not there. my question to you is, why do you think this is happening? Why are family businesses not innovating?
So this is very interesting, Ashutosh, and we need to look at it from the right perspective. I think, first of all, innovation, scaling are very new subjects to the management world, which has, happened in the last 15 years.
Correct.
And the pioneers who are leading innovation and scale are startups. A very different machine, which is driven by valuation, which is driven by scale, which is driven by profit. They're ready to burn out a lot of cash for that matter. And innovation happened through that constant failing. If you look at family businesses, they don't have money and external money. Nobody externally is investing into them. So all the money they have is hard earned by the family. So the ability to fail and innovate and constantly burn out a lot of cash is lower. At the same time, family businesses have a lot of legacy baggage, has a baggage of the family, and they are already spread in a certain structure. Yeah, I think all of these things together become somewhere, the change becomes slower there. And so if you want to innovate, there are certain ways where the family kind of puts an idea outside the family business, the cash cow of the business. Outside that, one of the next gen is made responsible to lead that. The family acknowledges or allows a certain amount of funding to that idea and let it go. But it will still not happen the way which would happen in the startups.
Correct.
So if you would look at this, family businesses are not startups. Family businesses are not corporates. Startups are driven by valuations. Corporates are driven by profits.
Correct.
Family businesses are much more deeper. They're driven by values. They are very conscious of what they take from the society and what they give back. If you would look at the second-tier cities in the country, you would see what phenomenal work has been done by family businesses in terms of philanthropy.
No, there's no, absolutely, you're absolutely right about that.
Yes.
Absolutely. I mean, there's no denying the fact that family businesses are really we are, as people say, a nation of businessmen, and majority of them are family businesses. As you very rightly said, small or big, but family businesses. But yet, Sunil, one of the things I've been observing, talking to many people, is that there is an age divide that is coming in. The younger family members want change. The older family members do not want change. And most of us don't want change. At my age, I'm happy with status quo ante, if I can use that term. What can be done for this huge core business group of our country to recognize that there are some major opportunities outside?
I think in simple words, the answer is communication. The answer is exchange of these ideas.
Okay.
The answer is right platform. And the second thing is that this generational gap, there is a root behind it. So I'll answer it with the cause, and then I will respond to you that what can be done about it.
Sure.
So if you look at the cause level, if father has built the business over 25 years, he has done what he had to do. And now he wants to preserve because there's a lot of hard work which has gone to it.
Correct.
So he's discovers. The younger generation wants to expand, explore, create new things. So they don't calculate the risk in the same way the elder generation looks at it. So both of them are driven by different things. So one is at root, there is this challenge that one is looking to preserve, the other one is looking to grow and explore and exploit. Yeah. So what can be sorted, in this difference is for them to recognize that both of us are driven by different things. Now, can you come together and exchange this? It has happened beautifully in many organizations. During COVID, we used to have these discussions where the second generation recognized the digital opportunity. Before COVID, they expanded into digital mediums. And when everything was shut and closed, it was only digital mediums which are sustaining the revenue for the families.
Wonderful.
It worked fabulously. And then there are certain families who didn't go about that change. So there are examples of families who've done it beautifully, who've surfaced these ideas, discussed about it, experimented with it, leveraged it, gave the right space to the next generation. You look at bigger companies at the same time, I think they're doing phenomenal. I think Dalmia has a similar story. Puneetji first created jobs ahead outside before he kind of triggered or tinkered with the family business. And then he came back and he was given the right opportunity. So I think this requires at the base exchange, at the base communication, and then the spirit to understand each other.
Very interesting. There is also an issue of resolution of conflicts. The father says, "I've earned all this money," and the next generation says, "Yeah, but it is family wealth, and I now need to take it further." How do you get involved in resolution of some of these conflicts?
So this is the prime part of our work. In fact, this is where most of the families reach out to us. You don't go to a doctor if you're feeling well. Correct. You go to a doctor when you're not feeling well. So families reach out to us when there is an ongoing concern in the house. There's a conflict, there's a difference of opinion. So during these difference of opinion, one of the first things to recognize is that both the individuals in the family, if it's the father who's saying, "I want this wealth," the prime reason for him to earn it for himself, and the second reason is to ensure that the family has the right base. And it is to give to the next generation. But unfortunately, what happens is sometimes when the second generation comes in and they say that the business is still driven Lala style, they often unintentionally tell their father that "You're stupid, you're driving this way. You don't know how to do the business." They unintentionally hurt the feelings which are not expected coming from a son. So telling your father that you're not doing this right, you're illogical or you're stupid, often there is a closure right there.
Correct. And culturally not acceptable in our country.
So that is where I think the communication completely drops. So the first thing we do is, as soon as we get in, we try and understand from the individuals what's happening here, first of all, to discover and to listen each and every perspective, that what is it you're wanting? What are your needs? What are your struggles? And then we surface the bigger, saying that we have these opportunities, these are the strengths in the family, these are the concerning areas. Now, if you want to leverage the strengths and tackle the concerning areas, we need to communicate. We need to learn to communicate with each other. We need to understand each other's perspective. And that is where these conversations are facilitated in a manner where the father can understand the perspective of the son, where he's saying it's time to change.
Very interesting.
And the son can respect that it's not easy to build a business of this size. It takes 30 years, 35 years, 40 years, and hard work of 16 hours every single day into the business.
Correct. I agree. And there is also a lot of talk, Sunil, about a family constitution. A lot of family businesses I know are beginning to enter into a family constitution. At what stage should a constitution be prepared?
Oh, wonderful. So as you know, constitution is an element of governance in the family.
Sure.
Meaning that how do you want to govern the family? And constitution is a written document of family policies and process, family values. So as I said, most of the families, when they reach out to us at conflict, most of these families are not ready to write down things. Because if you're hot-headed, you can't write down the right things for long term. So first of all, we recognize the family that if it is a conflict stage or it is a stage where things are normal, things are aligned, there are differences, but they are tackled with. I think it is at this point when we say that it is okay for you to start writing.
Right.
Because now when you're not hot-headed, you're calm, you can think long-term, you're patient, is when you're in the right frame to write things. So first of all, it is important to take the heat away. Stabilize the things, and then is the right time to start writing that what is it we want 10 years from the now, 20 years from the now. Because constitution is more about planning for the future and documenting that how family has succeeded so far. So documenting the success story and what are the things which have made us successful in the future. What are the things that we abide by will help us prosper together. So if you want to do that, I think family constitution, you should start writing when things are normal or you're looking for growth. Three brothers grown the business together. They're saying that we have gone through it, but we are unable to think that how our kids will, manage this togetherness.
Very, very well said.
For them.
Very well said. So, Sunil, I've got time for two more questions. My next question is on succession planning. Again, a big area of discussion, dispute within a family, especially when there are several aspirants. Earlier it used to be like the oldest son gets whatever it is, but now, irrespective of male or female, everyone has a right. What are your perspectives on when should a succession planning exercise be started?
When it should be started? When the kids are young, when kids are 10, I think that's the right time, because you're not concerned about the capabilities, what they're doing, how much they'll inherit, will they fail, will they succeed? You can think with a stable mind. So succession planning should start again at a time when things are calm. You can tap into the right opportunity. You can give the right platform. Now, succession planning has few elements. One is within family business. It's not only about only taking care of business interests. It is also about, if somebody is not doing fine in the family, to take care of them as well. So family business succession planning is a bit more complex. If you look at, how is it the family should go about it? I think it is about recognizing how the ownership structure is there in the family and how it needs to be passed on.
Right.
It also depends on a lot of values within the family. That do you value family togetherness or do you value individuality? And that would decide the succession planning. You want to give different business verticals to the family, or you want to have a family group, a holding company or a trust which will take care of all the verticals within the business. So there are quite a few details here, but in an overall questions, you should start at a time when things are okay. And succession planning is a matter where, succession planning, you should start surfacing the conversation and start creating a broader structure to it. So in family business, you should consider the family and business both aspects. You should look at managerial positions as well as family emotional positions.
Okay. Okay, well said. And my last question to you, Sunil, given your vast experience in the area of family business and the fact that you've created a family business network, for all our viewers and listeners, what would you say are 3 lessons they should take away from our conversation and from your experience?
So one of the first things I would say is, again, family businesses are the core of it, or core of our nation building and foundation. And it is okay to have differences.
Yeah.
It is important to surface the differences in the right way.
Yeah.
So communicate is the second way. If you have differences, surface the differences, and then communicate with each other. Often communication gets blocked. So I would say, go ahead and communicate with the family members about your aspirations, about your opinions, about your views, and do not get heated about it. And if you're thinking of family togetherness, take the right steps now, thinking 10 years ahead of line, because nothing changes in the family within 2 years. If there are differences, it can go a bit worse, but you're not going to separate in 2 years.
Correct.
But the separation is very much possible in the next 7, 8 years or 10 years. So you need to think about it in the future way, taking care of the current needs of the family.
Very interesting. Sunil, on that note, and your 3 amazing lessons, which is family businesses are the core of our country. It's okay to have differences. Your second one was to resolve a lot of the difference through communication. And the third one was to take the right steps now with a 10-year perspective. Thank you so much for speaking to me. Thank you for talking to me about family business, for Family Business Network, and all your amazing insights into how family businesses function. Thank you again and good luck.
Thank you so much, Ashutosh. Pleasure being here.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.